But when independence came, and then we turned, the Kenyatta regime went in to control the judiciary, right, and political opponents were brought before the courts. And the best lawyer in town was Achru, and often Achru was engaged by those political opponents. And so what Achru stood up for, freedom of the country in Kapenguria in the 50s, and in the 60s, 70s, freedom for all Kenyans through the independence of the bar.
He was never compromised.
He was never compromised.
A man of morals.
Indeed.
And principles. Fantastic. Further associations with him, like joint cases that you handled in the Seychelles, for example?
Yes, I was fortunate. Not everybody has the luck to find a brief in the Seychelles. So Achru was engaged by the person who was soon to become the president of Seychelles, Albert René. But his competitor, while the country was still a colony, sought to weaken his political position, that is Albert René's political position, by staging a bombing in a hotel and then accusing a employee of René. And the obvious implication was that this would have been done at René's instigation. Right. So it really, although it was a case against a clerical officer, it was really a case against the president-to-be. So again, watching him, these political cases carry more than simply the fate.
A very good morning to you. My name is Daniel Wahome, and welcome to Sports Check on the very first Monday of April 2025. Well, it is a day when the interviews for the members of the IBC Commission, those who have applied to be commissioners of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the interviews are continuing, so we are keeping tabs on that. It's part of what we shall be looking at when it comes to our news. And besides that, we also know that the NHIF Claims Committee launch, they have to review all that. That's going to, they're going to be meeting, that body is going to be launched today, so it's going to happen. And also, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government, Kipchumba Murkomen, is on Jukwaa la Usalama Coast Region Working Tour, so he's going to visit the Coast Region headquarters, visit the immigration offices, have a town hall meeting at the Kenya Maritime Towers Amphitheatre, visit the Majengo Mobile Registration Services, and also have our Waziri Media engagement later tonight. Part of the stories that we are keeping tabs on. From the news perspective, well, Kenya won the Baseball 5 African qualifiers over the weekend. So we are going to be joined by Hilary Kilivo and Tony Nganga to speak about that. That's one of the stories that we are looking at. And also, we have had a Kenyan who has been appointed as the safeguarding coordinator for Africa, for the Africa Judo Union, and also by the International Judo Federation. Professor Sheila Kalunga is going to be joining us from the UK, where she's based, and tell us about this role that she has got. And also, this week, on the 12th, that is Saturday, Kakamega is going to host the Kenya Cup final Kenya's Premier Rugby event. So, Kabras Sugar against Menengai Oilers. Their sister teams, one from Nakuru, the other one from Kakamega, and played in the 2023 final, and that was Menengai Oilers, making their intentions known. What's in store for them? Coach Gibson Weru of Menengai Oilers, and also we have got Coach Carlos Katiwa of Kabras Sugar will be joining us via Zoom for that conversation. But also, let us now get to our first conversation, and this is about golf. And before I do that, let me introduce my sign language interpreter, Anwangeshi, bottom right of your screen. Well, everyone knows about professional golf in Kenya. There is one tournament that always captures the imagination of the golfing family in Kenya, and that is the magical Kenya Open. But since it joined the European Tour, now known as the DP Tour, way back in 2019, I think the best performing Kenyan has been Simon Gego, who finished 5th in 2019. But after that, it's been, there's been a story difficult to tell. Maybe just one Kenyan golfer making cut. The last 2 editions, no Kenyan golfer made the cut, which means that they did not make any prize money. But how do you get them engaged? And also the elite amateurs, how do we see them move away from the amateur game and into the pro game and play consistently? Well, there is something that has come up, and we had the first event last week. The Sunshine Tour, the Sunshine Development Tour, a partnership between IMG Kenya and the Sunshine Tour of South Africa. And to speak about that is the CEO of IMG Kenya Limited, Peter Gashero. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Wahome.
Yes, and let's just do a background check on this, and just to see where the whole idea of getting a tournament for the local pros, or where they would have events at least once a month, they play, earn money, and also play at a very high level. The background of it.
Well, Mr. Wahome, as you know, that as a company, we've been involved in golf for more than the last 20 years. And looking at the landscape and where we sit, the way the sport has been developing in this country is that we've had really good grassroots golf going on, a lot of recreational golf being played across all the clubs. Almost every weekend there's a competition, and also a little bit for elite. But as you mentioned before, there seems to have been a slight gap between where we stop in our locally organized events to the Magical Kenya Open, which is now part of the DP Tour, which is a very high level event. To get our players to bridge that gap, it's been a clear gap, and we've been looking for solutions over the years. A while back, under the KOGL, that's a Kenya Golf Limited, they started off the Safari Tour, an initiative that we're also part of at that time, to try and just bridge that gap, give our pros an opportunity to actually have more playing events that they can play locally, but also get an opportunity to also earn some prize money throughout the year as they prepare. What has happened in the last couple of years, there's not been enough playing opportunities for our pros. In fact, last year was bad, I think.
So last year, I think, after the Magical Kenya Open, they did not have an event.
They did not have a single event. They had to actually come up with an event a month to a couple of weeks before the Magical Kenya, just to select the pros who would actually take up the 8 slots that were available to Kenyans at the DP. So I don't think in any sport it would be realistic to allow to expect a good performance if you've not had exposure in terms of competition throughout the year.
So here it is, and just looking at that kind of competition, there is the glass ceiling, and what's interesting is there is more money in amateur golf than we see in pro golf, especially now that the amateurs can actually earn money, as much as it is capped to $1,000.
Yeah,
interesting.
I think in the last couple of years they changed the golf rules to allow amateurs to actually make some money on the golf circuit, and I think there's been some good competition. Amateurs in this country have been making more money than the pros, sadly so. And that's why there's been a big gap in our market. And as we're getting more and more talented golfers coming into the space, they are getting to a place they cannot see what next. Just like in any sport, you want to know what's the next step for me. If I cross this line, what's the next competition for me? But we were getting to a place where we were hitting a glass ceiling, so to say. Yeah.
Well, the other one is, for juniors, because I know you're involved with one of the firms that is there. And what has been part of the response you've seen from especially the junior events that are being played, I think, every couple of weeks through the Junior Golf Foundation?
Yeah, so right now they've been very good initiatives the last couple of years. As you know, we, as an organization, we like to sit between what corporates want out of a sport and what the sports actually want to achieve. So we sit in between there and try and see how we balance the two. And for corporates, basically, one, of course, they want a return, but they also want to give back. A number of corporates also want to give back to the society. So there's been efforts and there's been good sponsorship going into junior golf. And there's been consistent competition in the last couple of years. NCBA has done very well there. Safaricom has also been putting an effort there. So we are seeing a new crop of very good golfers coming into our amateurs, which still brings us back to that gap. Because eventually, as you bring in a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old to start playing golf, they need to start seeing where are they going, what's a pathway, and there was actually none. If you get, for how long can you play as an amateur? Can you go to the next level? Can I qualify for the Olympics? And so on. They need to have a target that's higher up there, and that's why we had that huge gap there. Yeah.
Well, very interesting that, when some of these things that were brought there, so that glass ceiling is also there. So year-round schedule, consistent prize money, and getting official, ranking points. How then has, the Sunshine Tour and given you the direction to take, especially with the development tour that you're going to take? Because that is just one level below what we'd call the elite PGA tours.
Yeah, so what we did is look around and say, what is the real solution? How do we solve this? We have an uproar, an outcry every time at the Magical Kenya Open, or our guys did not make the cut, and it's getting worse. For how long can we complain about that? So as an organization, we've been looking back and we saw what really needs to happen. Interestingly, even when our pros play at the Kenya Open, they don't earn any points because they're not part of the tour. And the slots that we get by virtue of us being hosts of the event. And the only way we can get more playing opportunities there is for our players to earn points that qualify them on the European Tour, which is now the DP Tour, for them to actually earn positions by merit. Now, to do that, like any other sports, you need a Division 2.
Yes.
A Division 2, where you can actually now start developing and going. So what we did is look around and say, who can give us a license basically to immediately to run a development tour that bridges that gap, that allows our pros and amateurs an opportunity to play consistently, but while they are playing, earn points.
Yes.
So that now we actually, if you actually look at the golf, the world ranking, and you go to Africa, I think there are only 2 people on that whole ranking that are not South Africans. A Moroccan and one Zimbabwean who actually lives in South Africa.
South Africa, yes.
Yeah. So we've been playing, but we are just playing in the dark. So we wanted not just to give our pros an opportunity to play, and in the playing get the resilience. If you actually notice during the Kenya Open, sometimes we play very well day one.
Yes, true.
And then things start going really south really quickly. But that's because you require some level of stamina, some level of mental toughness to get through the 4 days of golf. And unless you are competing and continuously doing these 4 days, and our plan is to try and have one of those every month going forward, then you don't develop that resilience so that we can do. So we're going to do that. So in the development tour, out of a field of, say, 80, we expect that 60 will be Kenyans. So that gives more and more, not just the 8, but more and more pros, amateurs, including ladies who actually have almost no opportunity at all, because the only pro event we had was the one at Vipingo. We didn't have one this year, and it's only run for 4 years, and that's it. Hence the reluctance of our top lady golfers to turn pro. Otherwise, they'll have nowhere to play. So with this development tour, we bridge that gap, give them an opportunity to play, give them an opportunity to earn points on the world ranking, which opens certain doors. For example, qualifying for the Olympics as one of them. And secondly, give them a pathway to which they can actually play. The ladies who participated in our event last week automatically now have an opportunity for invitations into the Sunshine Tour, the ladies tour. Yeah, automatically they can now get invitations there and automatically get opportunities to play so that they can actually start thinking whether they want to turn pro or not.
Well, the other thing is a lot of mentoring and coaching that's going to come from the Sunshine Tour, because it's Africa's top event. South Africa, I mean, anybody, for the pros who play, the local pros who played there, they always say the level is different. What some of the tournament management, mentoring and coaching that you're working with the Sunshine Tour?
So part of our agreement with them is a transfer of knowledge across all aspects of golf. I mean, we're going to start, I'm talking about all the way from being a good caddy to being a good coach, to how we actually run our golf events. We've had this one opportunity at the Kenya Open to run a world-class event, which is really well done, I must say. Yeah. But that's only one, so very few people are exposed to that. But with these 12 events, at each of these events, we will be bringing in somebody from the tour. We even had 2 people last week, so that we start growing our own. And as we move from club to club in the 12 events within Kenya and within the region, we expect to start bringing our organizational levels up, including taking care of the course itself. So we're also going to bring that expertise here, so that we will not, when we go to a club, we're going to leave some knowledge even to the greenkeepers and so on, so that the level of our golf courses go up. Incidentally, out of South Africa, Kenya has the most golf courses on the continent. Yeah.
We're doing 43 or
something like that. Yeah, but we are not getting as many people coming in to play from outside. So if we bring our level up, yeah, we have a few clubs that are way up there, but we also need to bring the others up, so that when we are hosting this tour, we'll be hosting it across several clubs. We started with the Great Rift, and our hope is that as we announce our calendar, we will be able to go to various clubs and bring the standards up. Yeah.
Well, actually, one of the things that everyone talks about, because it's been spoken, is the course where pros are supposed to play. We know that most of the courses are managed for the amateur golfers, for the members. So at times it's not tough to play. Fast greens or the fairways, the way they're prepared. How are you going to work with clubs because I know the Sunshine Tour will demand some level of this?
At the end of the day, as you say, when the tide rises, all the boats go up. So we expect even that our amateur play, even at a club level, will start improving the standards. They will start demanding that they want to play on better courses. So we expect that as we make this pro space, everybody goes up. We want more and more clubs to come to us and say, we'd like to host this. Yeah, we are very flexible on the number of the days that we look at, so that we are not interfering so much with when the club members are going to play, and also how we involve them in this game, because it's an aspirational for every golfer to play on a world-class golf course. So why not start by making your home club a world-class golf club? So that's the approach you're taking. And as I said, we'll be bringing experts from South Africa to help at every venue we go to bring it up. So I don't think there are members out there who say, no, we prefer to play in a substandard course. So we're going to be, the whole game is going to shift towards filling that gap. We're going to see members bringing in their own children to the clubs, because now there's a pathway. We're going to see some of the development programs that have been there before going to even the less privileged parts of our society, into some schools to go and look for talent. There's now going to be a little bit of more steam. Why am I doing this? There's actually a pathway. There are golf scholarships up there. How do I get those golf scholarships? I have to be a better amateur and so on. So we expect the whole space to start moving.
Well, and remember that eventually the Sunshine Development Tour, it's known as the East African Swing. You've got Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and Rwanda, about 12 tournaments between April to February. So that means a lot of activity that's going to be happening. And let's see about Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania, and the conversations that you've had with them as you prepare to have the East Africa Swing.
So I must say that as we were having the conversations and we were now saying we are ready to go in January, it suddenly occurred to us that for us to earn points in 2025, we need to hold the Q School before April 8th. Basically today. So, and that's why you found that we were actually almost in a rush state last week.
Yes.
So we might, if we didn't have the Q School last week, it would have meant that we would have played the whole year without actually earning points and waited for the following year. But now we have an opportunity to actually, for our pros to earn points immediately. Now, that said, that slowed down the window that we had to negotiate with the clubs in Uganda and Rwanda was narrowed, but soon we're going to close it in. We're in conversations. The Rwandese or the Rwandans did send their top golfer, who actually emerged the winner, and they were actually supporting him all through. So we expect that they will be looking to host immediately. The Ugandans, we've already spoken to them. So as we start off, we will be staging 2 in Uganda, 1 in Rwanda to start with, as part of the East African Swing.
Yeah. Well, the Kigali Golf Club, one of the newest in the region, and everyone wants to play there. Our amateurs were there for the Rwanda Open, I think just a week before the magical Kenya Open. Now, this other thing is the kind of prize money that you'd want to give. And let's just think of last week. When you had the East Africa Swing Q School, where the top 10 now have traveled to South Africa, and they'll be playing from tomorrow. What was the experience, seeing Celestine win, John Legirma, an elite amateur, outperforming all our season pros, and now them getting a chance to play down south?
First of all, for us to actually get registered about 80 golfers on the course for me was quite amazing, because we thought there were much fewer active pro golfers in the country, so that was really good. The opportunity for pros coming up on top just goes to demonstrate the fact that the pros seem to be getting more practice, and we have people out there who should actually be turning pro, but they are remaining in the amateur ranks. As we say, they are making more money in the amateur ranks.
Yeah, because we had the event in
Kisii. They were in Kisii before coming to Rift Valley.
To Rift Valley?
Yeah.
And then after leaving the Rift Valley, they went to Thika.
They went to Thika straight away. So they have been having back-to-back events. So there's been no incentive for them to turn pro. Although that's still limiting in its own way. So we do need the ones that are at that level to start turning pro. Immediately they played in the Q School last week. The Sunshine Development Tour, the South African Swing, which is also known as Big Easy, they have 15 slots. Kenya has 15 slots automatically now for us to be able to send, and it's just for our pros to say they would like to take any of those 15 slots. And in the same way, the South Africans have 15 slots on our swing here.
So it's a good exchange for all of this?
Yes, and we actually squeezed it to 15. We didn't want them to come and overwhelm our space and take our little prize money away again. But we also wanted to give an opportunity for our players. Remember, one of the things that we've done, and you've seen this happening at the Kenya Open, corporates come in and sponsor the individual pros.
Yes.
But that's only once a year. So with this now, we are also creating an opportunity for the pros to get endorsement from corporates.
Actually, I'll come to that because it's a big conversation that's been had, and also how you balance it, such that people understand this. So just looking at it, you mentioned about the prize money. What would be the target amount per event?
So we want to make this sustainable. One of the things that you could have with an event like this is to put the prize money too high, and then we squeeze our sponsors dry. So we want to move between 1 million and 2.5 million, which is a requirement that we have just to remain within the world ranking points, so that we're able to have 12 events. So our sponsors coming in, we are not asking for very huge amounts that make it impossible for the events to go on. We now have a plan that is stretching 5 years. So we are keeping the amount low, which is okay. I believe we'll be able to raise the amount as we go up. We have television so far. We've got very good local support, as you saw last week. And we also have SuperSport on. So we're creating a very good property, but we want to start low and then grow it. As I said, it's a Division 2.
It's Division 2.
It's Division 2. Eventually, you can go and play in Division 1, which will be the Magical Kenya Open, or the Sunshine Tour itself, and play for the big money. And
you need to play for 1 year on the development tour before they can tell you, here's your card, to play in the top.
Well, our 10 pros who played very well last week get an opportunity at that card this week.
Yes.
They have a shot at that card. I know it's a long shot, but there's an opportunity. They could actually get that card immediately and have an opportunity. If they don't, they come back. We'll still have negotiated with the Sunshine Tour to allow us invitational slots while we are still playing in this Division 2. So we will get invitational slots, and for the top 2 or 3, there'll be spaces opening up for them, because we want them to get the experience, to play at the high level as many times as possible before getting... we want to see a Kenyan in the PGA in a couple of years.
Definitely. We really would love that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about individual sponsorship, because I see it in sport in Kenya. So you've got Wahome Limited sponsoring, say, one event. But because other people now see Wahome as a competitor, they may not want to sponsor the individual. So those opportunities get lost. How do you keep this open and it runs in such a way that, that there is value for money for everyone?
I think it's sports marketing in our space is a growing. We are adapting slowly just to understand. Competitors, we don't have a huge pool of sponsors, and that's why sometimes we get into problems. You'll find that we still rely a lot on the banks. The top 10 banks are probably going to be always your biggest sponsors, and we want all of them to be involved in one sport. But if you look, let me give you an example of the World Cup.
Yes.
Adidas is a sponsor to FIFA, and therefore they are sponsors to the event. Yeah? But Brazil shows up in Puma.
Nike.
Is it Nike?
In Nike.
Now? In Nike now?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So you get my point. It's exactly the same way. So we as event organizers are going to look for our sponsors who are going to, we are going to give them a return on sponsoring the event and give them benefits out of that. Individual athletes or individual pros then have an opportunity within a framework, just like in any other sport, where they can get individual sponsors. So we are creating an opportunity for pros to actually make more money than the prize money. In sports, basically, you have to make money on both sides. Yep. You have to make money from the prize money, and you have to make money off the playing field through sponsorships and endorsements because of the opportunities this platform is giving you. So even in this at the Q School, we saw some pros show up with branded shirts of certain corporates, which we welcome.
Yes.
And it's good to know that there are those spaces that are there. It can both offer different values to corporates. And I know what has happened in the past. We saw this in Kenya Open, where, of course, some brands feel that they spend a lot of money on the event and their competitor should not go straight down and just sponsor one player for a fraction of the amount and seem to get a lot of publicity out of it. There is a balance and there are some rules to be followed around that so that everybody is actually accommodated. Yeah.
Now, the other thing is and this is a challenge that we see with some of our athletes, basically putting their story out there. What part of the training that the Sunshine Tour will do for these elite amateurs and pros to develop themselves? I mean, at the end of the day, if you sit down and if I listen, anytime I listen to the pros who come in for the Kenya Open and they speak, there is a story they are telling.
So what's going to happen is that we are organizing seminars. I attended the last day of the Q School and I spoke to some pros and I could hear some of the questions they had, not even being very clear on what's happening after this, what's happening on the pathway. So we are planning to have a seminar before the first event of our series. We've organized with professional PGK to actually have a series of seminars as go in. We found that many years ago we've seen where pros went and made big mistakes that cost them money as individuals. So we wouldn't want that to happen. And also, how do we in this space help them understand their true value? So don't come and take 50,000 shillings to wear my cape. Well, but because you're hungry on that day, you pick the 50,000. But wearing that cape and it's going to be on DSTV on across all channels in Kenya, it's a billboard that's worth much more, and you should actually be able to bill more. So we are planning to have seminars. Some of our financial sponsors that we are speaking to will also be offering financial literacy, and we expect to prepare our golfers 360, not just on the course, but also the things that they do, of course, with some of our media experts here locally. We also expect to give them some media training so that they can handle their interviews better. Yeah.
Well, and this is something that that's from the PGK, and for the PGK, how much of a challenge and conversations are they giving you such that they can learn and grow, and in between the East Africa swing, maybe see if they can, have their own tournaments, because you've personally supported a one-day tournament at Railway, I think a couple of weeks back.
Yeah. So as IMG, we've supported PGK a number of times. We supported them when they had this qualifier to before the MKO. We supported, I think, an event 2 weeks back at the Railway Club. We've always been able to support them. And when we came to them with this idea, I mean, they were excited. All we've seen so far is excitement for the East African swing. They like the idea. I mean, it's for them as much as we are trying to put, create value for everybody. They're the most important people in the whole arrangement is the pro golfers of this country. Yeah.
Well, the courses that you've spoken to and the challenges that that they offer, for example, you've already had a taste of the Great Rift Valley for the Q School. Then let's also talk about, the Karen, Muthaiga, Sigona, Royal, and what the various clubs are saying about having this kind of event.
We've engaged a number of clubs, even as we are trying to get into the Q School. As I said, we had a very short window to plan this. And the only reason we didn't end up in Club A or B was other events that I had already been had booked in. Now, the challenge we will have is, of course, asking clubs to block out 4 days. But we see no problem. We expect to have a program that will be starting on Saturdays, which is typically a members' day.
Yes.
But that particular day will start with a pro-am. So we expect to bring in the issue of a pro-am, give an opportunity for the pros to play alongside members and sponsors guests on a pro-am. We've seen the popularity of the pro-am at the Kenya Open and other pro events here. So we want to bring that same excitement to the club, and the club see value to this, and then now move on to the Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, which are less busy days in most of the clubs before they start getting into their club nights and their corporate golf days between Wednesday and Friday. So that's basically the plan there. We know with the forward planning, we'll be able to block the 4 days with the clubs. Clubs welcome this. One of the things
Just hold that thought, Bwana Gashero. With Peter Gashero, IMG Kenya CEO, and it's about the Sunshine Development Tour. But right now, let's move over where the Cabinet Secretary for ICT and the Digital Economy, William Kavogo, is addressing the delegates where Kenya is hosting the ITU Regional Development Forum to bridge the digital divide.
That when our partners come to support us, mostly they come with conditions. You get conditional grants, you get conditional loans, and some of those conditions, for example, are conditions that you have to consult with these companies, so and so, so and so, and it is money that we will pay. And my friend, my brother gave me an example that if we were to be funded in East Africa, for example, by World Bank, would have a central consortium that will work in the entire East African countries, so that every country does not have to pay for consultancy selected by our funding agencies. Sometimes it's risky to say the things I'm saying, but we appreciate our partners from overseas. But it is good that we create that synergy that allows us to do what it is that we need to do in Africa, so that we do not stay and keep being the dark Africa. And you can take this and relate it to the current subject of ITU. And I said I'm taking the risk to deviate a little bit. But if you take this into the context of ITU, ICT, communication in Africa, you can place it somewhere. The third issue is the intra-Africa trade and regional integration. That's one thing that is, we have. Technological leapfrogging. Africa is bypassing traditional stages of development by leapfrogging into digital technologies, mobile money, e.g. M-Pesa in Kenya, e-commerce, agri-tech, and fintech. These innovations are homegrown solutions to local problems and demonstrate that development doesn't need to follow Western models. The other issue is rethinking development models. Western aid often comes with conditions, as I said earlier, debt traps and policy prescriptions that don't align with African realities. Many African countries are exploring South-South cooperation, e.g. with Asia or Latin America. You know, the guys who are a little bit behind like we are. And we can find some comfort between ourselves and agree to work and grow together. Homegrown development strategies and models that prioritize sustainability, local ownership, and cultural relevance. The other one is the diaspora investment and influence. That speaks for itself. 7, raising political consciousness and agency. That too speaks for itself. So in conclusion, Africa doesn't need to cut off the Western, but it certainly does not need to be dependent on it. With strategic leadership, good governance, and intra-continental collaborations, Africa can grow on its own terms, leveraging its resources, people, and culture to build a prosperous, sovereign future. That's my take today. To speak it and put it in the context of ITU, and I'm sure I ride on those that have spoken before me. You know, the difficult thing about speaking after your peers is he has done everything else technical. And you look repetitive. And I have been telling my peers, be careful you don't look for my job, because this job is mine. I associate myself with everything else that everybody else has said before me. I just thought that for this morning, I don't need to bore you more with what it is that we have said, because you know the story of Kenya. And Kenya is not only a regional hub. We find Kenya and we feel that Kenya is in the global space. And that's where we need to take the entire Africa. So allow me at this juncture to invite my brother from Ghana for a couple of words. Yes, indeed. Don't worry, we have everything here. Even the teleprompters are working. When I saw them, I got a shock, because the first time I saw a teleprompter was in 2013. I had been elected a governor, and I needed to look really sharp. And I had to speak, you know, from here and from there. And things were looking nice. Karibu, brother. I shall share my written speech, so it shall be part of the program. Thank you very much.
So that is the Cabinet Secretary for ICT and the digital economy, the Honorable William Kabogo, who was speaking in Nairobi. And this is at the launch of the as Kenya hosts the ITU Regional Development Forum to bridge the digital divide. And over 200 participants from 194 countries, and the forum aims to promote global connectivity and accelerate efforts to bridge the digital divide. We continue with our conversation here on Sports Check, and it was about the Sunshine Development Tour. And so let's now get back to Peter Gasheru, who is the CEO of IMD Kenya. And Peter, I just had you hold a thought. And why, you know, everyone's asking why the Sunshine Tour, because we're talking about unlimited space in terms of opportunities for pro golfers at the highest level, which means that they have to go through this Division 2 event that you're putting up and to get into the main one.
So, I mean, any country, any organization can start its own tour. There's no question about it. But they're just requirements before you can earn world ranking points. You need to have run for a number of years at a particular prize money level. So at our 1 to 2 million prize level for our event, we are sitting under the umbrella of the total Sunshine Tour prize money, which allows us now to earn points. If we decided to go independently, we would then have to run for a number of years before we could get there. And we would basically lose several generations of pros in the meantime. The other question would be, out of the other 5 tours, why Sunshine Tour? Sunshine Tour has most of its events right now in Southern Africa, where it's easy. We've had, previously we've had even some of the amateur series where we have had winners being sent to play in events out of the country. And one of the problems we've actually always ended up with is with visas.
True.
We have a big problem with visas to travel to European countries, to travel to the US and so on. Now with our current arrangement or relationships with South Africa, we can just fly in to Zambia, we can fly into Zimbabwe, we can fly into South Africa and get our visas on arrival, or it's actually visa free. So this makes it very easy for our players. If we got into an arrangement, say, with one of the other tours, like the Asian tour, it would be just miles and miles away for our pros to go. But this now just gives us a very good stepping stone for our pro golfers, our amateur. The Sunshine Tour is at a level where they can accept certain concessions for us. For example, you notice at the Q School last week we allowed ladies to enter.
Yes.
So giving them for making this a mixed tour, which is unheard of in many parts of the world. But we were able to negotiate with Sunshine Tour to allow us to do this because this fits our country better. We are just starting. So by the time we get to the place where the ladies can have their own and the men can have their own, it will take a while. So we're going to have a mixed tour for now, and the ladies automatically get an opportunity to play in the Sunshine Tour.
All right. Thank you very much. Peter Gashero is the CEO of IMG Kenya, and they have come together with Africa's most prestigious golfing event, which is the Sunshine Tour, and they're putting on what is called the Division Tour, Development Tour, for a pathway for elite amateurs and also for our professional golfers, a pathway, something that can be sustained. Asante sana.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, now let's move over and talk about rugby, because this weekend, Menengai Oilers are traveling to Kakamega, and they'll be at the Kakamega Showground where they'll be playing against the Kenya Cup champions, Kabras Sugar. And joining us via Zoom from Nakuru is a man who was vice captain of the Kenya Sevens side. And actually, time does fly. That was 15, 16 years ago. He's now coach of the Menengai Oilers, Gibson Wero. Gibson, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
I am very, very well. Well, first, let's now talk about this the Kenya Cup season 2024-2025 for Menengai Oilers. You know that a couple of years back, you made your presence felt, making it to the final. First time, beating KCB. But how would you summarize 2024-2025 for you?
I would say it's been an amazing season for us. We started off very well at the Floodlight tournament and winning it for the first time. And then progressed to our regular season where we've had a very good campaign, winning 10. Winning 10 games and losing 2. But again, now I think the big one was when we played in the semi-finals and qualified for a final. It's been a good season for us. I think we've grown a lot over the years, and I think now we've reached a point where now we feel now we've reached a point where we are able now to compete for the Kenya Cup trophy.
Well, let's talk about those 2 matches that you dropped in the 2024-2025 season. What are the biggest lessons that you did pick up from the 2 losses?
For me as a coach, there's one thing that I normally I use as my philosophy, and I try to instill it to the boys, not only in sports but also in life, is that you don't lose. If you lose and you don't learn, then there's a problem. For me, it's picking the lessons and saying how can we improve and get better with the remaining matches. So for me, those 2 losses came at a good time. They showed us exactly where we are and what exactly we need to work on. So we went to work once we lost to KCB, and knowing that deep down we'll play them in the semi. So we did a lot of work in terms of adjusting how we want to play, looking at the areas that we are strong in and making sure that we stick on to our strengths, and looking at the areas that we fell short and trying to make sure that we get better. And so that really worked well for us. Again, now we have an opportunity to play Kabras. I must say that I must commend the coaching staff and the Kabras team itself. I think they are a fantastic side, a side that has not lost a rugby match in close to 3 seasons. So that tells you the amount of work that goes into the program, the amount of quality they have. So for us now is trying to see, we fell short the first time round by about 6 points. So where did we fall short? How can we improve on the areas that we were good at? and how can we work on the areas that we are weak at. And at the same time, looking again, the last game we played, I think we did some fantastic stuff, but there are a few things that we felt that we would have done better, especially in the set pieces. So those are areas that we want to improve on and make sure that we are ready now to play Cabras.
Well, let's just talk about, Cabras. It's a sister team. That's an interesting thing about this. I mean, close partnership. But looking at how you played against Cabras the last 3 seasons, first of all, the mindset that, you picked up after breaking that glass ceiling, playing in the 23 final.
Sorry, I think I lost you there.
Okay. We're talking about, Cabras, the area opponent this weekend, and you've played them in a final before. What was that, the 2023 experience for you, and especially for the boys, having hit the stage at that point? We could see, Oilers move, try and get, draw fast blood, but eventually some Cabras pulled it off.
So for me, I think the biggest lesson and the big takeaway point from that match is that mentally we were on for it. I think we got off the blocks very quickly, maintained it, but we could not maintain the intensity for 80 minutes. So for me as a coach, the biggest thing that I'll take for that is that now we have to bring in the same mental toughness into that match, the desire, the hunger, but balance it with a bit of tactics and a bit of game management, because we could not just manage that game for 80 minutes, and that cost us the trophy. But again, I think we've learned a lot from that loss. It was a painful one because we felt we were in it till the last about 15 minutes or so. That's where we basically lost it. So this time around now, for me as a coach, to make sure that I manage the tactical bit of it, manage the mental expectation, and at the same time select a team that can play for 80 minutes.
Well, and now let's talk about playing at Kakamega. You will end up with what you'd call close to Northern Hemisphere rugby, the possibility of rain and the pitch. So how are you trying to get your boys into real shape such that they can hold their own on a surface that can get slippery, knowing that we're headed into the wet season in Kenya?
I think for us, I would say we've been blessed with rain a lot of rain in the last 4 weeks. So our preparation basically has been interfered with the conditions. So the conditions are tough in this part of Kenya. So it's been raining almost every other day, if not every day. So I think we are suited for that. If it rains, I think we'll be fine. If it doesn't, then we'll be happy. So it's not a matter of going to a final, going to Kakamega and being shocked with rain. So we are used to that, and we've gotten plenty of that, and we've trained under those circumstances. So we'll be ready if it rains. If it doesn't rain, then we'll be fine as well. But again, the big one when it rains now is it becomes now a tactical kicking game, and how do you feel? How do you relieve pressure of your team? How do you play in the right areas? So those are areas that we are looking at and making sure that now we're able to adapt and be able to play at any conditions.
Well, Kenya Cup semi-final, 31-8 winners over KCB. How was that feeling for your side, knowing that it was, people would consider this was a do-or-die match, 23 points. It's not a gap that you get against KCB every day.
I think again, once we finished the regular season, we knew we'll play KCB, and the first time around we lost narrowly to them, and we went to work on ourselves and to be able to. And again, we tried to look at areas that we can exploit in how they set up in terms of how they defend, how they attack, and how we're able to adjust and be able to deal with that. So for us, deep down, we knew we had the capability of winning that game. So the matter was if we're able to stick to the plan and be able to execute that. So the belief was there. And I must commend the boys. They did it in a way that actually I didn't expect. I thought it will be a close game, but we ended up blowing them away. So for us, what we did is that we enjoy the feeling because you have to enjoy those victories, and because they are beating KCB for but at one point it's not, it doesn't happen often. So it's something that now we had to enjoy that and told the boys, now look at this. If we're able to do it now, we can we be able to go to Kakamega and be able to repeat this in Kakamega. So the challenge is on them, but again, we enjoyed it and we loved it, but we are ready now for the next challenge, which is now playing in the final.
The other one is Kakamega can be hostile, we know. They have developed this thing of having a crowd that fills the stands, and we know the rugby atmosphere. How are you preparing your players mentally, for the noise from what we'd call the 24th player who's out on the stands?
So I'm happy to say that we are going to this final not as a top dog, but an underdog. And from experience, I've learned that the guys who are not supporting the top dog are supporting the underdog. And I believe that this match will be well attended because it's something that our fans want to come and watch. Every other rugby fanatic will want to come and watch, and I'm sure they'll be supporting Oilers. So I think if you're able to put them under pressure and you're able to pile in scores early, then we'll have to silence the crowd. So that's the plan. If we get off the blocks quickly, if we're able to pile in scores, then we'll neutralize the 24th player and be able to capitalize on our 24th player as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about your squad now. As we come to a close. Situation with the squad, any injury concerns, any returnees, and how you would describe the mood in camp.
So the mood has been well. Fortunately, we did not have any injuries concern. We do not have any injury concerns, and I believe we have a healthy squad to select from. There are other guys who are coming in from suspension and from injury. So Bilda Rogeta is coming in from suspension. So we'll look at where he is and if he's able to make a contribution. But if I must say, we'll basically stick with largely the squad that we used in the semis because they did the job.
Mm-hmm. And actually, because this is one thing that you would like from your squad, including especially when on the pitch, your captain Crispin Shitundo putting out the word to the players: discipline in this sport. How do you want them to approach Saturday's game and the story that you would want them to tell about Oilers?
Sorry, I missed that. If you're able to repeat that.
Okay, you've mentioned about the return of Bilda Rogeta from suspension. So it means that for Shitundo, your captain, at the end of the day, he's got to lead from the front to ensure that there is a lot of discipline within the squad. What's a communication that you would want from your captain on match day?
So for me, I think our captain plays a very huge role in terms of managing the players and making sure that they stick to what the coaches have dictated. At the same time, what I say is that we have so many leaders within the squad, and there are guys who are leaders without a title. So the captain is the only guy who's there, who's him talking to the referee and maybe communicating with the players as a whole. But we have so many players in the squad, and the message will be very simple. Make sure that we play to our strengths. Make sure that we concentrate for 80 minutes. Make sure that we stay positive. When at times things will be thick, but you have to stick together and get out of it as a team. And you have to celebrate more victories and make sure that now we play 80 minutes.
Well, thank you very much, Coach Gibson Weru of the Menengai Oilers. All the best on Saturday as you play Kabras Sugar in the Kenya Cup final. 2 finals in 2 years for them. Can they get their maiden title? Gibu, asante sana. All the best on
Asante
Saturday.
sana, nashukuru kwa muda wenu.
Yes.
And I would like to urge all the supporters to come out in large numbers and support Menengai Oilers in that final. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's Gibson Weru, coach of the Menengai Oilers, speaking to us about the Kenya Cup final. We take a short break. When we get back, more conversations. Judo safeguarding is one of them, and also Baseball 5.